Welcome to this, the first video in a series I'm calling Staying Between the Lines, Compliance and Vendor Management. Through the years I've worked in the payments industry, I've often seen these two disciplines, compliance and vendor management, handled badly. Most of the time, the badly has been a delegate and forget mentality. A very few times, I have seen people micromanage these roles into complete dysfunctionality. As a matter of fact, over my 4 decades of working in IT, I can only give you 2 or 3 examples of teams who have done compliance and vendor management effectively. I've heard some unbelievable comments over the years about these roles. Here are some examples. We hire responsible third parties. We don't need to manage them. We don't have any service providers. Oh, compliance? Our service providers take care of that. Our compliance and vendor management teams. We have a few junior staff who work for an operations team lead who reports to a manager, who reports to a VP, who reports to an SVP of bank operations, who reports to an EVP, who reports to a member of the C-suite leadership. Maybe these statements don't sound unbelievable to you. Maybe you've used one or more of them yourself. Maybe these statements describe your company. If so, you really need to watch this video playlist and find out what you're missing. So, how can these two disciplines be so important if almost everybody mismanages them and yet everyone is still in business? Well, there's a big difference between being still in business and doing business well. I've seen more businesses negatively impacted by misaligned structure and poorly executed processes than by major market shifts or economic downturns. Many failures attributed to market shifts and economic downturns have actually been caused by sloppy operations that barely coped in good economic weather. They were totally incapable of handling any adversity or unexpected changes. Well-structured and executed compliance and vendor management roles are 2 very important functions that keep your corporate ship well-balanced and watertight. In good economic times and in booming markets, they can appear to be optional or unnecessary. I've heard them called that many times. That is a lie. They are critically important if a company is to get the most out of the good times. In the bad times, these 2 disciplines, executed well, provide a company with security and accountability. Executed badly, these roles can be the gaping holes that precipitate the company sinking into oblivion. These 2 roles, compliance and vendor management, liaise between multiple parties. They relay the requirements from some parties to other parties and then monitor and report on the compliance level of all the parties. The requirements come from outside sources. The work needed to comply is done by other departments and outsourced partners. Compliance and vendor management teams have to coordinate this intricate dance. We wish that these roles felt more like a conductor directing a symphony orchestra. To be honest, these often feel much more like a game of monkey in the middle. Let's talk about these 2 very important roles. Compliance. Compliance, as a word, means aligning with imposed requirements. To ensure compliance, we must answer the following questions. Who is imposing these requirements? How does this entity have the right to impose these requirements? What do they have authority over? Requirements are imposed for a reason. What is the reason? What teams and infrastructure are impacted by these requirements? What are the consequences of non-compliance? The second video of this series is called Comply with What? Says who? In that video, I'll answer each of these questions. In the third video of this series, I will talk about semi-annual releases. These are the scheduled updates that payment networks, processors, and others in the payment space make each year. These releases include a mix of mundane functional tweaks, infrastructure for new functionality, adjustments for changing legislation, and optional new business features. Monthly network and processor bulletins will be the topic of video number 4. These documents cover a much wider scope than the semi-annual release documents. Being able to triage these documents quickly and well is a necessary skill for any compliance team. Vendor management. When I started working in IT over 40 years ago, most companies ran all their own infrastructure and roles internally. Then the pendulum began to swing as IT companies like HP and IBM started offering to take over running corporate IT infrastructures. Soon, other companies began offering solutions to take over call centers, back office processing, and dispute management. And, of course, in the payment space, issuing processors, card program managers, merchant services companies, and merchant aggregators became viable and profitable businesses. Today, almost all payment industry companies outsource many, if not most, of their processes, infrastructure, and roles. This means that vendor management is a critically important part of any business's existence and profitability. Unfortunately, many of my customers over the years did not have any centralized vendor list or a vendor management strategy for their outsourced roles, infrastructure, and processes. Many of my customers only began to do this when the network I worked for, MasterCard, began requiring that they register their service providers with the network. In video 5 of this series, we'll take a look at who your service providers may include. We'll also take a look at the levels of data these service providers process or house. This topic has significant implications. I'm calling video 6 of this series like a 9-year-old child. Please note that I did spend years of my career working for service providers, so my comments will be as a service provider and as a customer of service providers. In the last video of this playlist, we'll talk about what if my service provider won't. Non-performance and underperformance by service providers is an ugly reality and one we need to have strategies to address. As I mentioned earlier in this video, compliance and vendor management teams tend to be relegated to a dusty corner of the operations branch of the business. This is terribly unfortunate for the teams. It is also a serious disservice to the company itself. Since compliance and vendor management coordinate between so many divergent entities, they need to have the following resources. Number 1, a direct view into the corporate strategy. These roles impact and are impacted by the corporate strategy. Effective fulfillment of these roles is directly tied to their ability to align received requirements and vendor performance to the corporate strategy, priorities, and direction. Number 2, a hammer. I have watched many compliance teams assign requirements to departments who didn't care. The requirements were not implemented and the business suffered dysfunctionality due to the failed compliance. The senior executive team was not even aware of this lapse until the non-compliance fines reached significant amounts. At that point, executive intervention was too little, too late, and ineffective. I have also seen service providers ignore their customers. They seem to know that the customer did not have an effective escalation process in place. Therefore, no customer ping points would ever be escalated to the service provider executive. Compliance and vendor management teams need a hammer, either by directly reporting to the C-suite or by having a red phone access to those who have the authority to require compliance and cooperation from all parties. Number 3, close cooperation. There is a significant amount of overlap between compliance and vendor management roles. The best-run compliance and vendor management team I ever saw ran as one team. The bank carefully chose experienced staff from each area of the company to be on this outsourced application support team. The team handled compliance, vendor management, and corporate support of the outsourced applications and processes. This gave the team depth of knowledge, perspective across the organization, and the ability to effectively manage vendors and their compliance. Your corporate structure may require that these two teams reside in different departments. If so, they need to work closely together as though they were one team. Otherwise, they will struggle with conflicting priorities and the inability to manage all aspects of their roles. Number 4, accountability. Compliance and vendor management are business-critical roles. As such, they need to be held accountable for all their actions and directives. There is no room for power tripping in this corporate control tower. Executive leadership needs to be aware of the critical role these teams perform and need to keep them performing these roles well. Compliance and vendor management. These are very important roles in your organization. This video series is a journey through their worlds to help you see the many ways they keep your company's pulse healthy and your business heading towards its goals. So, hop in for the ride. Let's talk about these two critically important roles that need to exist and thrive in every company in the payment industry. Let's see if we can transition them from the monkey in the middle to being an experienced conductor bringing out the best in an amazing orchestra. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button and subscribe to this channel. If you have more questions about the payments industry, leave a message in the comments below. You can also contact me through my website, mentoredbymarkt.com, or via email, markt@mentoredbymarkt.com.